It is officially time to welcome a new wave of growth, nourishment, and emotional fulfillment as Jupiter enters Cancer, a transit that invites us to expand in ways that feel meaningful, personal, and oh so supportive. It's a time to create what we want, but that creation starts from within. And in this video, I'll be walking you through what Jupiter and Cancer could bring into your life based on your rising sign, but I'll also be sharing tips and insights based on your natal moon's sign and house placement, as well as your natal Jupiter's sign and house placement. And you might be wondering, why are you bringing up my natal Jupiter and my moon placements, you strange internet girl? And the short answer to that is that my goal is to help you to understand transits, not just from the perspective of your rising sign, although your rising sign can tell you so much, but to personalize the read a little bit by going into relevant placements that might be relevant during the Jupiter and Cancer transit. And how are they relevant, you might ask? Well, Jupiter is moving through Cancer, which is a sign ruled by the moon. And your natal moon placement will influence how you experience this growth emotionally or from within. It'll help you experience what feels safe and what you're ready to open up to. And since Jupiter is coming into a sign where it is exalted, your natal Jupiter placement gives clues about how you naturally lean into opportunity, optimism, and expansion. So knowing where Jupiter already lives in your chart can help you make the most of this transit. Yes, y'all are about to get a full course buffet of insight because this transit wants you to be fed, watered, and supported on every level. So let's get started. The heart of Jupiter in Cancer, this is expansion that's tender, emotionally deep, and intentional. It's not about chasing more for the sake of more. It's about growing what truly matters to you. And in short, this is a time where what's on the inside will count because your internal world will reflect and mirror into your external world, especially at this time. But this isn't passive growth. It's a kind of expansion that asks, what's worth holding close and how do I make space for it to thrive? And it's important to note that we're stepping into this transit right as Saturn and Neptune form a tense square in Aries to the Jupiter in Cancer in mid-June. And this square may stir some fog or doubt or pressure to define dreams that have felt out of reach for us, or push you to take action where the next step feels unclear, maybe a little unsafe, meaning whatever agitates you at this time or at the time of this square likely needs emotionally stable foundations to help you push through. And in a way, it's like Jupiter in Cancer is planting seeds of emotional abundance, while Saturn and Neptune in Aries are quietly testing whether you trust yourself to tend them. It sets the tone by asking, can you believe in the future you're trying to build, even if you don't see the full path yet? And because Jupiter amplifies whatever it touches, whether positive or negative, remember that this transit might also bring old patterns or insecurities up to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to give you a chance to care for them differently this time. You may find themes from Jupiter and Aries weaving back in. So this time that I'm putting on the screen right here, that's when Jupiter was in Aries, except now it's less about forging ahead solo and more about asking who and what do I want to grow alongside. And so check the timestamps below to find your rising sign and your other placements, and stay tuned for guidance on how all of these relevant placements can help you align with this energy, grow what matters, and to feel supported every step of the way. If you are an Aries rising, then Jupiter will be transiting your fourth house, which is all about your home, your family, your roots, your innermost self, or emotional security. So this year, growth isn't about making a big splash necessarily. It's more about going deep and personal within, focusing on how safe and grounded you feel in your environment. You might feel the urge to move or renovate or tweak your living space to better support who you're becoming, whether it's your internal or external living space. Family dynamics also at this time could change. Some relationships might become more tender, while others might need more boundaries, so pay attention to that. You might start pondering your long-term sense of belonging and how to create emotional safety for yourself. And so a good example of this is you could quietly reconnect with a parent. Maybe you finally decide to move out on your own or to build a home that's yours, even if it's modest, or you might decide to resolve some childhood trauma from within. And at first, with the Jupiter square to Neptune and Saturn in your first house, themes that make you feel safe and secure may unveil to you at this time, or where tension in your safety and security could present a little challenge from within. So pay attention to how those themes come up in the next year or so. And to find fulfillment, concentrate on creating spaces, both physical and emotional, where you can just relax and chill. The more supported you feel inside, the stronger you'll be on the outside, and the more you can create the life of your dreams on the outside. A good tip at this time is to treat your inner world like a solid foundation. Everything you build on top will stand taller because of it. And if you're curious about how this expansion might play out in your life on like a deeper, more personalized level, check out the timestamps below for your natal Jupiter and moon placements. They'll give you more context that is personally relevant to your life, but that's just a little starter. And if you are a Taurus rising, then Jupiter will be transiting your third house, which is all about communication, connection. Sometimes people say it's like siblings and learning, but also your immediate environment. And so this is a chance to let your voice grow, not just louder necessarily, but deeper from within. And so expect conversations to get more emotional and meaningful. You might feel inspired to write or to teach or to share from a more personal perspective as opposed to like an objective one. And maybe your relationship with people in your immediate environment could change as you become more emotionally open. And so a good example is you might start a project that shares a personal story, or you could like support a sibling or a close friend through an important part of their life. So take what resonates with that. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 12th house, themes surrounding your subconscious may challenge you in this pursuit of bettering your communication. So pay attention to that. And to find fulfillment, focus on meaningful dialogue. Emotional satisfaction comes from conversations where both parties feel heard and understood, not just small talk. And a good tip at this time is to share from your own experiences, not just theories. People will be so much more drawn to your authenticity than if you were to sort of refine what you say a little too much. And if you're curious about how this expansion may play out in your life on a deeper level, check out the timestamps below for your natal moon and Jupiter placements. They'll give a lot more context that is personally relevant to you. And if you are a Gemini rising, then Jupiter is here to give a little bit of a boost to your second house, which is all about money or your values or even your own self-worth. It's about what you own. And this year, growth is all about what truly keeps you going. You might see more money coming in or enjoy more material comfort. But the real deal is how these things make you feel. You might find more emotional richness at this time. Is what you have bringing you peace, or is it adding to your security? Those are going to be important questions. An example on how this could play out is you could turn a small skill into a little bit of a more profitable venture, or finally spend money on something that boosts your daily and emotional well-being. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 11th house, there may be themes around community or society or your goals that sort of like come up and challenge you a little bit. But to fulfill yourself, focus on what nourishes you, not just what pays the bills. Emotional satisfaction comes from investing in what truly matters to you, not from proving your worth to others. A good tip at this time is to ask yourself, is this purchase or am what I accumulating feeding my comfort or covering up discomfort? Choose wisely. And if you're curious about how this expansion might unfold in your life on a little bit of a deeper level, check out the timestamps below for your natal Jupiter and moon placements, because they'll give you a little bit more context that is personally relevant to your life. And I hope that helps. And if you are a Cancer rising, this is a giant transit for you because Jupiter is transiting your first house of identity and self-expression. This year is a chance to grow into yourself a little bit more fully. Not necessarily reinvent, but to return to the parts of yourself that feel real and emotionally authentic. You might feel ready to show up with less armor, a little bit more softness, and greater confidence in who you are emotionally. A good example of how this could play out is you might feel drawn to take better care of your body. You could get a glow up, go to the gym, eat well, whatever resonates for you. You could change your appearance in a subtle but meaningful way, get that haircut. Or maybe from a metaphorical level, you could step into a role that feels aligned with your natural emotional body. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 10th house, themes around what you achieve plus your image may feel a little bit of tension at this time, but to feel fulfilled, you'll feel the most fulfilled when you let your emotional needs guide your choice and not just ignore your emotional needs. You don't have to be everything to everyone. Just be true to yourself, and that's how your life will grow. Trust me. A good tip at this time is that this is a great time to explore who you are when you're not managing other people's emotions. Like, who are you at your core? This is a question you can answer to grow your life tremendously. And if you're curious about how this expansion might unfold in your life on a deeper level, check out the timestamps below for your natal moon and Jupiter placements, because these are going to give you a little more personalized context that is relevant to you. And if you are a Leo rising, hello, I'm a Leo rising too. Jupiter is moving through your 12th house of inner life, rest, healing, and the subconscious. Growing here is quiet and subtle. It might not be visible to others, but you'll feel it in your nervous system. This is about healing our emotional bodies, which, trust me, we need after the last few years. You might need a little more solitude or reflection and more willingness to let go of roles or identities that you've outgrown. A good example on how this could play out is you may finally address a lingering grief. You may heal an old pattern. I have a lot to heal. I get it. Or you could start a spiritual practice that is more about nurturing yourself than striving for something. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 9th house, themes around your beliefs and your subconscious may feel a little bit of tension. But to feel fulfilled, emotional fulfillment at this time will come from being gentle with our inner worlds. Not every part of us needs to be improved. Some parts just need to be acknowledged and cared for. A good tip for us at this time is don't mistake rest for being passive, because rest is productive and stillness is powerful as well. These are major themes for us, and this is about healing the things that are stuck deep inside of us. And if you want a little more detail as to how this could play out for you personally, check out your Jupiter and moon placement timestamps below, because they'll give you a little more context that is relevant to your personal life. And if you are a Virgo rising, then Jupiter is all about expanding your 11th house, which is all about friendships, networks, shared goals, and like your collective contributions to society. The key here is to grow your community or your societal beliefs with folks who make you feel emotionally safe and supported. This expansion is all about how emotionally rich or fulfilled you can be in this part of your life, whether it's through personal growth about your goals in society, or whether it's about connecting with others who emotionally resonate with you. It's not about climbing the social ladder or gathering context. It is about forming true and meaningful connections based on care and emotional compassion or emotional resonance. And so, for example, you might find a group that feels like your chosen family, or you could dive into a collaborative project that really fills you up emotionally or sparks your aspirations. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 8th house, themes around control of the outcome versus just going for your goals might face a little bit of attention at this time. But to feel truly fulfilled, look for spaces where care is mutual, not just transactional. Places where you don't have to prove your worth by being useful. A good tip for you at this time is to let yourself belong because you're accepted for who you truly are, not because you fill a specific role for people. And if you're curious about how this expansion might unfold for you and your life on a deeper level, check out the timestamps below for your natal, Jupiter, and moon placements because they'll give you so much more context that is personal to you. And if you are a Libra rising, this is a major transit for you. Jupiter is transiting your 10th house, which is all about your career, your public life, your reputation, the role you play in society, essentially. This year is perfect for growing your professional world or even your aspirations, but in roles where you can care, nurture, or support others, or at the very least, channel your emotional passion. The focus is on how emotionally fulfilled you can be in this part of your life, whether it's through personal or professional means. There's going to be a little bit of both being addressed at this time. And recognition might come not just from your accomplishments, but from the passion you bring into your work. And it's when you're passionate that you can expand your life. And for instance, like you could get like a kudos or a thumbs up for mentoring others. You could start a project focused on emotional wellness, or you could take leadership in a role that values empathy over ego, or you could channel your creativity in some way. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 7th house, themes around the expectation of others and your role in society, that might face a little tension you gotta address. But to truly feel fulfilled, make sure your career or your goals align with your emotional values, because it's not about status, it's about making a meaningful impact from the heart. And a good pro tip for you at this time is don't shy away from leading with kindness. Emotional intelligence is a key leadership skill, trust me. And just a little heads up, if you want to dive deeper into how this expansion might unfold in your life, check out the timestamps below for your natal Jupiter and moon placements, because they'll give you so much more context that is relevant to you. And if you are a Scorpio rising, then Jupiter will be transiting your 9th house, which is all about exploration, belief systems, learning. It's about leaving your comfort zone, and growth is on the horizon when you let your emotional experiences shape your worldview, not just your intellectual ideas. This is about really connecting with your heart. The expansion is all about how emotionally fulfilled or rich you can be in this part of your life, whether it's through internal or external means. You might feel a little bit more of a pull to explore your roots or your ancestry or spiritual traditions that connect you to a little something deeper, because that might morph and transform your belief system into one that is so much more fulfilling. It can help you create so much good in your life. Good example on how this could play out is you could take a trip to dive into your family history, or go somewhere that is very emotionally resonant to you and helps you expand your beliefs. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 6th house, themes around your work habits versus like your beliefs and expansion might face a little bit of tension at first. But to feel fulfilled, for you, fulfillment comes from blending emotion with meaning. Don't just learn new ideas, let them fully transform the core of your being. A good tip at this time is to let your emotional story expand your beliefs rather than letting your beliefs invalidate your feelings. And a good note is, if you want to see how this expansion could take place in your life on a little bit of a more personalized level, check out the timestamps below for your natal Jupiter and moon placements, as this will provide so much more context that is relevant to your life. And if you are a Sagittarius rising, then Jupiter will be expanding your 8th house, which is all about shared resources, intimacy, emotional transformation. It's about the intense part of life that is outside of your control. And so this year's growth might feel intense, but oh so rewarding. The expansion is about how emotionally fulfilled or rich you can be in this area of your life, whether it's through internal or external means. You're being called to trust, to open, and to let shared care or like transformational experiences deepen your life. Open up your heart a little bit. Don't guard it so much. A good example on how this can play out is you might get support through a partner or a family inheritance, or you might go through an emotional process that changes how you relate to intimacy and vulnerability. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 5th house, themes around what brings you joy, as well as like letting go of control and the outcome, might face a little bit of tension at this time. So pay attention to that. And a good fulfillment direction is that you feel fulfilled when you stop seeing emotional dependence as weakness and you start seeing that vulnerability as mutual care. And a good tip for you at this time is letting someone in doesn't mean losing yourself. It means growing together. So let the right people in and don't guard your heart if it doesn't need to be guarded. And go with your heart more at this time. I promise it'll help you. And if you want to look at a deeper look as to how this can play out for you personally, go to the timestamp below, look at your natal Jupiter and moon placements, and because this is going to provide so much more context that is relevant to your life personally. So this will give like a little bit of like the gaps that need to be filled. This will help with that. And if you are a Capricorn Rising, then Jupiter is transiting your 7th house. It is a season of love, which is all about partnerships and collaborations. Growth here comes from relationships that really nourish you emotionally, not just ticking off the external boxes. This is a time to go with your heart, but also your idea of relationships can come more from the heart. The focus is on how you emotionally feel fulfilled or rich, and how you can gain that within your connections with others, whether it's your idea of relationships or the actual relationships you pursue, whether it's platonic or romantic. And a good example on how this can play out is you might find yourself in a relationship or a partnership that feels super supportive, or you might be working on a partnership that's built on shared emotional resonance or goals. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your 4th house, themes around you, maybe like your childhood trauma and how you relate to others, that might come up, so pay attention for that. But to feel fulfilled at this time, you'll feel fulfilled in relationships where care flows both ways, and you don't have to put up walls to feel safe at this time, because you might be more likely to run into more emotionally resonant people. A good tip at this time is don't confuse loyalty with fulfillment though. Choose relationships that actually make you feel validated from within. You need someone who truly supports your heart. And note, if you want to dive deeper into how this expansion might unfold, check out the timestamps below for your natal Jupiter and moon placements, because that will personalize this so much more. And if you are an Aquarius Rising, then Jupiter is expanding your 6th house, which covers work and health and daily rhythms, kind of like the day-to-day life. Growth here means creating routines that not only keep you productive, but they keep you emotionally steady. Stop burning yourself out. The focus is on how emotionally fulfilled or rich you can be in the area of your health and routines, and what can you do to minimize like the emotional strife or heartache that your routines may potentially give you. Good example is you might finally find a balance between work and rest, or discover fulfillment in a care-based job that lets you support others without emotionally burning yourself out. And at first, with this square to Neptune and Saturn in your 3rd house, themes around communicating what you need in your routines may cause a little bit of strife, so pay attention to that. But to feel fulfilled, you'll feel the most fulfilled when your daily life leaves so much room for emotional nourishment, not just tasks. A good tip at this time is to build a schedule that cares for both your body and your feelings, because both at this time deserve so much attention. And if you want to see how this expansion might unfold in your life on a deeper level, check out the timestamps below for your natal Jupiter and moon placements, because this will give you so much more context that is personalized and relevant to you. It might help fill in the gaps. And if you are a Pisces Rising, then Jupiter is transiting your 5th house, which is all about creativity and romance and joy, the things that make you feel childlike wonder. This is such a fantastic time to reconnect with your playful, expressive, and emotionally open side. Growth happens here when you make joy a priority, not just an afterthought or something that happens after the hard work. The expansion will focus on how emotionally fulfilled or rich you can be through your passions. And if something brings you passion, this might be a good time to chase it and to not be as caught up on the outcome. A good example on how this can play out is you might fall in love, or you might kick off a creative project that feels like an emotional release, or maybe you'll heal your inner child through being a little bit more playful. And at first, with the square to Neptune and Saturn in your second house, themes around your worth may become something that causes a little bit of strife, so pay attention to that. But to feel fulfilled, you'll feel fulfilled when you give yourself the green light to enjoy and love and create freely without needing it to be important enough. And a good tip for you at this time is that joy is all the reason enough to go for something. You don't need to justify it, trust me. And just a little note, if you want to see how this expansion could unfold in your life on a much deeper level, check out the timestamps below for your natal Jupiter and moon placements, as this will give a little more context that's relevant for your life, and it might give a little more flavor into how this expansion can play out. If your natal Jupiter is in Aries, then you're used to growing by charging ahead and just going for it. You are a go-getter. You figure it out as you go. But Jupiter in Cancer is going to ask what is worth slowing down for, because this transit shifts growth towards creating something you can stand behind emotionally, not just about getting to the top or the chase or solely about achievement. An example, this is going to depend on where Cancer is in your chart, obviously, but maybe you're drawn to protect what you've built, or you may step into leadership that feels more personal and protective rather than competitive or focused on solely winning. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer teaches you that staying connected to what matters truly on the inside makes your wins feel so much more meaningful. And a good tip for you at this time is not every fight needs speed or urgency. Some need patience to truly last. And if your natal Jupiter is in Taurus, then you expand typically by sticking to what is solid. Jupiter in Cancer is going to help you focus on growth in the spaces and relationships that feel like they truly belong to you. So take whatever sign Cancer is for you, that's going to be a relevant area of your life. A good example on how this can play out is you might spend more money making your home or your routines or whatever area Cancer is in your life feel a little bit more emotionally right. Also look at your natal moon house as well. Or you might question what you're holding on to just out of habit. So you're going to be holding on to things that are more emotionally resonant. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer encourages you to value what feels truly right for you, even if it looks a little bit more simple on the outside. And a good tip for you this time is it's okay to want comfort that doesn't impress anybody else. This is about you and what makes you feel safe and good, so go towards that this time. If your natal Jupiter is in Gemini, then you naturally grow by exploring ideas and connecting the dots. That gives you so much thrill and so much growth. With Jupiter in Cancer, this shifts growth from more interesting to personally meaningful. It's not about gathering facts as much at this time. It's about building stories that feel like yours. And if you do gather facts, let it be about something that brings you passion, and look at the relevant houses in your chart to figure out how this can play out. A good example is maybe you're finally writing down something closer to your own experiences, or you're reaching out to somebody who you've avoided opening up to, or maybe you're taking on a passion project that's important to you. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer reminds you that feeling connected to what you're doing in your passion projects matters more than covering a lot of ground. A good tip for my Jupiter in Cancers at this time is that some conversations are worth staying in or letting out at the right time, even if they feel a little messy. It's okay to be messy. If your natal Jupiter is in Cancer, then this is your Jupiter return. Woo! It's a time to check in. What actually makes you feel full? Because Jupiter in Cancer sort of doubles down on expanding what is already close to your heart and going towards that instead of going towards something for other reasons. Good example on how this can play out is you might feel more pulled towards something that is emotionally resonant, maybe your family or long-standing friendships, or you may want to create a space or a passion project that feels like yours. And the impact of this transit is that Jupiter in Cancer isn't about more for the sake of more. It's about more of what fits into your emotional story. So look at all the relevant players to figure out what that looks like. And a good tip for you this time is the most important expansions won't be visible to everybody, and that's okay. It's about what's within. And if your natal Jupiter is in Leo, then you're always good at growing by putting yourself out there and wanting to be proud of what you create. You want what you create to be yours. That is so beautiful. But Jupiter in Cancer asks, what parts of yourself do you protect, not perform? Like, what parts of yourself actually matter to you, not to the audience, if that makes sense. And a good example is you might find yourself less interested in being seen and more focused on creating things that hold emotional weight for you and for others. This is a time to get emotionally resonant. Yeah, that's the right word. The impact of Jupiter in Cancer might be that it shifts your spotlight a little bit inward. Maybe celebrate yourself a little bit. It'll shift it towards what's fulfilling when nobody's clapping. A good tip for you this time is it's okay if joy feels a little quieter this year. It doesn't make you smaller. It just helps you to guide towards a direction that feels more fulfilling. And if your natal Jupiter is in Virgo, then you naturally expand by paying attention to details and getting things right. You are very detail oriented. Jupiter in Cancer softens that drive a little bit by asking, what if caring about what you're doing is enough? Maybe it doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe it just has to resonate. A good example is you may notice you're more drawn to work that feels emotionally supportive, or you want to put less pressure on fixing everything to make it perfect. Take whatever area of life Jupiter in Cancer is going on in, because that'll be a relevant player as well. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer lets you step back from improvement as obligation and towards action that feels satisfying to you. Jupiter and Gemini squared your Jupiter. That square's over. Now it's about finding you. A good tip at this time is that you're allowed to appreciate small progress without turning into a checklist. So celebrate your small wins at this time, and I promise that'll help. If your natal Jupiter is in Libra, then you naturally grow through connection and balance and diplomacy. Jupiter in Cancer may redirect growth towards connections that actually feel steady or emotionally resonant, not just polite or surface level. You're not about the surface level at this time. It's about going from within and resonating with that. A good example on how this can play out is you may step away from relationships or friendships that drain you emotionally, even if they've been a part of your life for a long, long time. This is about you and what makes you feel good and what makes you feel balanced and emotionally fulfilled. Jupiter in Cancer makes it clearer where the give and take actually works for you, not just where it looks balanced. And the areas of life where Cancer is in your chart, that's going to be relevant. So look at that as well. And your moon, look at those timestamps too. A good tip this time is sometimes fairness means letting go of what no longer fits. That can be the fairest thing you could do. And if your natal Jupiter is in Scorpio, you naturally expand by going deep, by finding what's beneath the surface. You are such an amazing problem solver. And Jupiter in Cancer shifts growth towards knowing what's worth holding close, what's worth diving deep for without needing it to be like dramatic or without needing to control it. A good example on how this can play out is you might feel more open to building trust slowly rather than testing people or pushing for intensity. Look at the area of your life where your moon and Jupiter and Cancer is. That'll be relevant to this. So take a look at that. And the impact is that this transit may encourage a depth that's steady and emotionally resonant, not just chaotic or for control. And a good tip for you at this time is you don't have to prove loyalty to deserve closeness. You deserve closeness just like through your authenticity. If Jupiter's in Sagittarius for you natally, you've always grown by moving outward, by taking chances and chasing what's next. Jupiter in Cancer points that growth a little bit more inward. It asks what beliefs or stories help you feel safe enough or emotionally resonant enough to explore. An example on how this can play out is you might explore your family history or your emotional or spiritual roots, or even like the inner workings of your emotional body as part of your quest for meaning. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer will remind you that understanding what makes you you from deep and from within adds so much depth to where you're going to go in the future. And a good tip at this time is you don't have to choose between adventure and belonging, or adventure and feeling emotionally safe and secure. You can truly carry both, and I hope that you can learn that at this time. If your natal Jupiter is in Capricorn, then you naturally expand through responsibility and results. Jupiter in Cancer asks you to notice, does what you're building also take care of you too? Is it considerate of you, or is it just considerate of a goal, you know? An example is that you might rethink whether certain goals still align with what feels emotionally worthy to you. Or you might shift focus to work that supports others or supports your emotional being, but still takes on that Capricornian effort without burning yourself out. The impact of this transit may be that it reminds you that care and ambition and creativity and taking care of yourself and also achieving, those aren't competing factors, they're connected. And a good tip for you this time is you don't need to prove strength by never resting. Rest is equally as productive. If your natal Jupiter is in Aquarius, hello, I'm also a Jupiter in Aquarius. We naturally grow by thinking bigger and creating systems that improve life for everyone. We're kind of the optimizers of the Jupiter placements. And Jupiter in Cancer pulls attention to the emotional side of the people or the systems that we work on. An example on how this can play out is maybe you'll notice that you care more about how individuals in your network feel supported, not just about the mission. Maybe when I'm filming these videos, I'll rein in a little bit on the emotional resonance, which I try to do anyway, but maybe I can deepen that. The impact is that this transit may encourage projects or connections that factor in your emotional well-being, not just getting the job done. And a good tip for you this time is it's okay to build slower if it means that the foundation that you're standing on actually feels good and steady. And then if your natal Jupiter is in Pisces, you grow and expand naturally by leaning into empathy or imagination or a little bit of wanderlust. Jupiter in Cancer deepens this so much, but also reminds you to include yourself in that care. Jupiter is at home in Pisces, but this is just going to rein in the emotional resonance even more. An example is you might find that you're more protective of your emotional bandwidth, or maybe you'll look for creative outlets that leave you feeling energized instead of draining you, instead of focusing on the results, and may help you to produce even better. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer expands your emotional reach while encouraging stronger boundaries to keep you from overextending yourself for the sake of achieving. And a good tip at this time is that being kind to yourself counts as kindness too, because when you're kind to yourself, that is when you're gonna put your best foot forward, and that is when you're going to achieve the best you can in this life. If your natal Jupiter is in your first house, this is the house of self, identity, how you present to the world. And this shows that you naturally grow through putting yourself out there. But Jupiter in Cancer highlights growth that feels true to you emotionally, not just something that is bold or visible or big for the sake of it, if that makes sense. An example of how this can play out is you might focus less on proving yourself to other people and more on showing up as your whole self with your feelings and the innermost workings included within that. And a note is that the themes you experience surrounding this transit will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below. But the impact of this transit for you may be that Jupiter in Cancer encourages you to care about how your confidence feels on the inside. This is a time to go deep within and sort of do a little makeover on how you project yourself to the world. And a good tip for you at this time is to let your self-image include a little bit of softness or vulnerability. This is a part of the strength that you can present to the world too, and I hope this helps. And if your natal Jupiter is in the second house, this is the house of material possessions, finances, your belief systems, anything you own. that is the second house. And so you grow naturally by building stability and knowing your self-worth. This is how you like to grow and expand. And Jupiter in Cancer brings attention to what actually makes you feel secure, not just what looks or seems secure from a surface level observation. An example of how this can play out is you might reassess whether the things you're holding on to still feel comforting or do they just feel familiar to you. And you might take in things that feel more comforting for you at this time. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely sort of tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and this will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below if you haven't seen them already. And the impact of this Jupiter in Cancer transit is that Jupiter in Cancer may help you to align material security or what you own or your beliefs with emotional comfort, what resonates from you on a deep level, not just out of like obligation or trying to protect yourself. And a good tip at this time is that it's okay if some things are valuable to you, even if they're not practical. Figure out what is valuable to you emotionally and just go for it. And if your natal Jupiter is in your third house, so this is the house of communications, your immediate environment, anything that is immediately in front of you, that is your third house. And so naturally you grow through learning and possibly connecting with others, whether verbally or non-verbally. And Jupiter in Cancer sort of adds a depth to this by focusing on the feelings behind your conversations, not just the ideas. And an example on how this can play out is maybe you'll be drawn to talk more openly about emotional topics, or you might reconnect with people, whether it's close friends or siblings or family, or even coworkers in a weird way, but more in a heartfelt way, not just for the small talk. You know, small talk is done for you at this time. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart. So look at that and sort of draw the dots if you have to. And this will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below if you want to check that out. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer reminds you that connection doesn't need like constant variety or stimulation. Sometimes it's about deepening what's already there, because that can give you the best type of connection you can think of. And a good tip for you this time is let important conversations last longer than you normally would, because now's the time to dive deep. And if your natal Jupiter is in your fourth house, so this is the house of your roots, your innermost self, your safety, family, home. And naturally you do grow through your home or your family or your personal innermost foundations. Take what resonates, because not everybody has a strong family. And Jupiter in Cancer feels right at home here in the fourth house as it strengthens that pull inward towards your soul. An example on how this can play out is you may feel more interested in exploring your history or your family's past. Maybe you'll want to improve your living situation, or maybe you'll want to create emotional safety in a private space. And note, the themes you experience during this transit will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below. All of these will kind of tie together, so work to connect the dots if that will help you. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer encourages you to prioritize the spaces and bonds that help you feel steady inside. Don't just do things because you think it's the right thing to do. Do things that actually make you feel safe inside. And a good tip at this time is that a peaceful home or innermost home, outermost home, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to feel safe, and it needs to feel like yours. So remember that at this time. And if your natal Jupiter is in your fifth house, this is the house of joy, creativity, romance, anything that taps into that childlike wonder, that is your fifth house. And so you naturally grow by expressing joy, creativity, and love. Jupiter in Cancer brings growth through sharing those things in ways that feel emotionally rewarding, not just for like surface level fun or flashy or to get that dopamine boost, if you know what I mean. An example on how this can play out is you might find deeper satisfaction mentoring a child, or maybe you'll finish a heartfelt creative project, or maybe you'll reconnect with a playful side of your soul that you've been missing because you have been avoiding that depth. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below in case it's a little helpful. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer expands your joy in ways that feel closer to your heart, not just about fixing or getting attention or getting the things that you want in the moment without really like deep long-term thought. And a good tip for you at this time is don't downplay the things that make you feel quietly happy. Really tap into your heart and soul at this time and express that feeling a little bit more. You are safe to do that and you will be a lot more happier. And if your natal Jupiter is in your 6th house, this is the house of work and routines, like anything with the day-to-day life, that is the 6th house. So you grow through work and daily responsibility naturally. And Jupiter in Cancer highlights growth that happens when your routines actually support your emotional well-being. No burning yourself out because you think you have to. It's about tapping into your routines from within. An example on how this can play out is you may start building softer, more sustainable habits, or realize that care work you already do deserves more credit. Like maybe you've been taking care of yourself and you don't give yourself enough credit. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below, so look at those to get a little bit more nuance on how this will play out. But the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer teaches you that small acts of emotional support towards yourself or others through your daily habits or your routines are a real kind of success. And a good tip at this time is not everything needs to scale up. Some things feel better when you keep it small and steady, and when you like channel it from within. It's not about how much you're doing out here, it's more about the quality of what's going on in here. And if your natal Jupiter is in your 7th house, hey, that is me as well. This is the house of partnerships, one-on-one connections, contracts, you and one other person. That is the 7th house. So you naturally grow through partnership and collaboration. And with Jupiter in Cancer, this deepens the growth by focusing on the emotional trust and care inside of your relationships. It's not just about surface level stuff at this time. It's about deepening the bonds. An example on how this can play out is you might be drawn to partnerships that feel emotionally grounding, or notice that old dynamics you currently have, maybe you need to open up a little bit more. Maybe you've been sheltering a little bit. Now's the time to open up. And a note is that the themes you experience at this time will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below. But the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer helps you to choose partnerships where you can fully show up as your emotionally authentic self. It's not just about working well together or vibing. It is about established emotional trust or comfort, because that can help you bloom in so many ways at this time. And a good tip is that it's okay to expect closeness, not just cooperation. If people shame you for wanting to get close, maybe they're not the ones for you. And if your natal Jupiter is in your 8th house, so this is the house of transformation, intensity, shared resources, anything that surrenders control, 8th house. You grow naturally through intimacy and deep emotional trust. And Jupiter in Cancer emphasizes growth that feels emotionally safe and sustainable. It's not just about chasing intensity or the dopamine boost or like intimacy. It's about something that is emotionally sustainable for you. An example is that you may feel called to face old emotional fears. You may talk about sensitive topics or build trust more gradually than you normally would. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below. But the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer teaches that emotional closeness doesn't need tests or extremes or like intensity to be meaningful. And a good tip for you this time is let people prove themselves to you over time. It's not about how intense you feel around them, because you don't have to push right away. It's about seeing who is with you through thick and thin and who supports you, whether yourself or with others, from an emotionally deep perspective. And if your natal Jupiter is in your 9th house, this is the house of expansion, beliefs, higher learning, anything out of your comfort zone. That's the 9th house. So you naturally grow through exploring beliefs and broadening your horizons. And Jupiter in Cancer at this time for you points towards growth that more reflect emotional stories that shape your beliefs. And so what I mean by that is, an example is that you may feel pulled to visit places that are tied to your roots, or maybe you'll explore topics or philosophies that call and resonate to you emotionally. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer connects expansion to belonging at this time. You're not just learning, you are reclaiming your inner emotional power. And it's when you do that that you can expand further than you could have ever dreamed. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have the timestamps for down below. But a good tip at this time for now is sometimes the biggest discoveries come from revisiting what resonates from you within, whether it's your own history or your roots, or what just feels emotionally right for you. So remember that. And if your natal Jupiter is in your 10th house, it's the house of career, public reputation, your role in the public space. And so you naturally grow through career and public roles. Jupiter in Cancer adds focus on whether your ambitions also feel emotionally rewarding, or whether you are doing something because you feel like it is the best path to success or status, or because you feel like you have to. An example on how this can play out is maybe you want to shift your professional goals to something that feels more connected to your values or your personal life or your innermost self. It's about resonating with your emotions. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer encourages leaderships that's more personal and sincere, or ambitions that is more personal and sincere, not just impressive or not just trying to achieve something specific. And a good tip for you at this time, my Jupiter 10th house individuals, is that people follow you because they trust you. Let that be the basis on how you build your reputation, not just out of your performance, because it won't resonate as deeply and it might prevent your growth. And if your natal Jupiter is in your 11th house, this is the house of community, friendships, larger circles in society. And so you may grow naturally through friendships and collective dreams or societal contributions. Jupiter in Cancer emphasizes building community or aspirations where you also feel emotionally safe, or that actually emotionally resonant with you. It's not just to belong. An example is that you might invest more in a small group of close friends rather than a wide network. Or you may help others feel supported emotionally within a group effort, or you may reevaluate where you want to go within your societal contributions. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer reminds you that real community includes care and emotional resonance. It's not just about shared goals, it's about how you feel deep from within. So listen to your emotions at this time. And the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart, and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below. But for now, a good tip for you is that the right team feels like belonging. It feels like emotionally resonating. It's not just about strategy. It's not just for the cause. Do something where you feel like your impact holds emotional weight, and that will be how you grow best. And then finally, if your Jupiter is in your 12th house, this is the house of the subconscious, transcendence, your dream state. And so naturally you grow through introspection and emotional healing. Jupiter in Cancer at this time strengthens your connection to your private emotional work. It's not just about what you do in public or in the real world. It's about what's going on inside for you, deeply and subconsciously at this time. An example is you might spend more time reflecting resting, or facing emotional patterns that you've been avoiding at this time. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer expands quiet breakthroughs that others may never see. They don't even have to see. It's none of their business, but that you deeply feel. And a note is that the themes you experience will likely tie together with the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart and will center or amplify with your natal moon placement, which I have timestamps for down below. But a tip for you at this time is just because growth is invisible doesn't mean it's small, because the more emotional peace or resolve or healing that you're able to embrace at this time, the more you'll be able to expand it to the outside world. If your natal moon is in Aries, then you're naturally wired to move fast through your feelings. Jupiter in Cancer at this time slows the pace down, encouraging you to sit with your emotions instead of sprinting past them. It's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. So kind of draw the dots, but also look at the house of your moon as well. An example is that you may notice that you're less reactive at this time and more reflective. That's a sign you're on the right track. Or that you crave emotional safety before taking action. That way you know that your action is correct. And the impact of this Jupiter in Cancer transit might be that it helps you to connect courage with care, proving that you don't have to go at it alone. And a good tip at this time is that feeling supported doesn't make you less strong. If anything, it'll help you feel more strong. So remember that. And for my Moon and Taurus individuals, you naturally find comfort in consistency. And Jupiter in Cancer expands this by asking which comforts genuinely feel good versus what are you just used to? What is kind of in your comfort zone, even though it no longer serves you emotionally? And it's when you channel this energy and understand it properly that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example on how this can play out is that you might refresh your routines or invest in pleasures that feel a little bit more emotionally grounding. They're not just familiar, but they actually feed your soul and make it feel warm and comforted. And the impact is that Jupiter in Cancer will deepen your sense of emotional safety by linking it to conscious choices. Make conscious choices at this time, not just habit, whereas a good tip is don't be afraid to upgrade your comfort zone. And if your natal moon is in Gemini, then you naturally handle emotions by thinking them through or talking them out with someone you trust. And Jupiter in Cancer brings attention to how you actually feel beneath the words. It's not just talking for the sake of them, but it's letting your true words shine with your emotions, because it's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. An example of how this can play out is that you may find yourself pausing more often, maybe thinking about things before you speak a little more, or maybe you're getting more personal in the conversations that used to stay very, very surface level. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer encourages emotional honesty, even if it's a little harder to articulate at first. And a good tip at this time is feelings don't always need a perfect explanation to be valid. So just say what you feel. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it will help you heal so much. And if your natal moon is in Cancer, then you already feel things deeply and instinctively. And Jupiter in Cancer at this time magnifies that sensitivity, but it also reinforces your need to feel emotionally steady. See what's making you feel steady and what's not. Because it's when you channel this energy or become aware of it that expansion inward can take place, which can help you get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. A good example on how this can play out, just as an example, is you may draw closer to friends or family or people who mean a lot to you, or maybe you'll revisit old emotional patterns that you're ready to outgrow. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer reminds you that emotional care also includes boundaries and selective closeness. It's about how you feel inside. And a good tip for you is that it's okay to prioritize your peace, even if it means stepping back sometimes. So remember that. And if your natal moon is in Leo, hey, that is also me, you crave recognition and warmth in your relationships or bonds with others. And Jupiter in Cancer encourages growth through emotional sincerity over performative closeness. Now's the time to really tap from within. And it's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And a good example on how this can play out is you might seek people who love you for your quieter moments or the things that aren't really loud or bold or out there, not just when you're turned on, not like that. I mean like energetically. Okay, just forget what I said. But the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer expands your capacity for genuine connection that feels safe and not performative. And a good tip for you at this time is you don't have to earn love by being on all the time. You earn love through your authentic self. And if your natal moon's in Virgo, then you tend to care for others by helping or fixing or managing the details. And Jupiter in Cancer encourages growth through letting care feel a little simpler. It's not about proving how useful you are. It's about intentionally putting your efforts out there in a way that helps without doing extra that you don't need to. And it's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And a good example on how this can play out is you may drop perfectionism in favor of smaller or more heartfelt gestures, or you may let others help you for once. You don't got to be the one to do it all at this time, because that's where true vulnerability can shine. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer helps you to accept that showing up imperfectly can still be oh so valuable. And a good tip at this time is you don't have to earn the right to rest. It's about feeling good about your contributions, and don't overthink it. If your natal moon is in Libra, then you naturally feel safe in balanced or easy relationships. And Jupiter in Cancer encourages growth at this time by inviting deeper emotional honesty, even if it rocks the boat a little bit. It's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get so much better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example on how this can play out is you might start saying things you've held back for a long time. The things that you thought would rub people the wrong way, maybe it's better to just state it, because that's where true balance and harmony can come. Or maybe you'll realize that emotional closeness matters more than just smooth and trouble-free interactions. And the impact of this transit may be that it deepens connection through truth, not just agreement. And a good tip at this time is peace that includes honesty is such a stronger peace, trust me. And if your natal moon is in Scorpio, you protect your emotions carefully. And Jupiter in Cancer encourages growth by showing you that trust can be gradual. It's not an all or nothing thing. I know it's hard, but that's what it's trying to teach you. And it's when you channel this energy, or at least become aware of it, that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example on how this can play out is maybe you'll lower your guard with people or situations who've earned it. Like maybe you'll actually give them the trust instead of questioning them, or maybe you'll process old emotional wounds a little bit more gently on yourself. You don't got to be hard on yourself just because you feel intensely. And the impact of this transit may be that it makes you feel emotional closeness. It might feel safer or steadier without giving up control. And a good tip at this time is let trust build slowly. You don't have to test it up front. And if your natal moon is in Sagittarius, you find safety in optimism and exploration, whether externally or internally. But Jupiter in Cancer points that growth towards finding emotional grounding without losing your sense of adventure. It's about finding a balance between those two areas of life. And it's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example on how this can play out is you may explore your family stories or your friendship stories or your own past stories. You might explore your roots or what calls to you emotionally, or personal beliefs tied to where you've come from or who you are at the core. You might start exploring new belief systems. And the impact of this transit may be that it teaches you that home or belonging emotionally isn't a place to escape, it's a place that you bring with you. And a good tip at this time is you don't have to choose between freedom and belonging, because you can be emotionally resonant and be free at the same time. It's about finding out how to do that. And if your natal moon is in Capricorn, you find safety in responsibility and control. Jupiter in Cancer encourages growth by reminding you that emotional care, whether to you or others, it's not weakness. And it's when you remember this that the energy can expand inward, and this is what is going to help you get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example on how this can play out is maybe you'll begin to open up about feelings you've kept private for a long time, or allow others to support you instead of always being the rock or being the one to manage things alone. It is time for you to let yourself be vulnerable, because that is the only way that people can help or do things for you. Even if you're scared, it's not going to happen. And the impact of this transit may be that it expands your emotional trust by showing you that strength includes receiving. It's not just about giving. It takes so much strength to receive from others. And a good tip at this time is you're allowed to be carried sometimes. So let people do it, even if it's a test, and just start small if you're scared. If your natal moon is in Aquarius, you feel safe at a distance. Maybe you observe your feelings rather than live in them. Whereas Jupiter in Cancer invites growth by pulling you closer to your own emotional experience. Time to experience that first person POV, because it's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. So try to connect the dots a little bit if that helps you. An example on how this can play out is you may feel more drawn to emotional conversations or creating more personal bonds in your community. Even if it's hard, I know, maybe just take the chance. Maybe experiment with someone who feels the safest, and then you'll see how big or bound your limits are. And the impact of this transit may be that it helps you to feel connected without needing to stay detached for safety. That would be the optimal outcome of this transit. And a good tip for you this time is feeling more doesn't make you feel less rational. If anything, it makes you real, and then your feelings are more rational because they're valid, if that makes sense. And finally, if your natal moon is in Pisces, you are naturally so sensitive and empathetic. Jupiter in Cancer expands your emotional depth, but it also calls for stronger boundaries to avoid burnout. And it's when you channel this energy that expansion inward can take place, which can help you to get better results in your external life, especially with the house that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so a good example on how this can play out is you may focus on giving care in more sustainable ways that don't burn you out or that don't sacrifice your inner well-being. Or maybe you'll create something that expresses what you've carried emotionally. It could be a piece of art or writing, or just an act of service for somebody you love. And the impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer shows you how to protect your emotional resources while staying open-hearted. And a tip for you at this time is that compassion includes yourself too. You're not a bottomless well, and I know Saturn's been in the same house as your moon for a little while, but it is time to open up again. Saturn's saying goodbye. I have a video on that too if you want to watch it, and it's time to say hello to a more open way of being. If your natal moon is in your first house, hello, that is me as well, you tend to wear your feelings outward, even if you don't mean to. We're kind of bad at poker, if that makes sense. But Jupiter in Cancer brings growth by encouraging you to own that emotional presence a little more intentionally. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life and how you're kind of perceiving how others are perceiving you as well. And so see what triggers a surge in negative emotion for you, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of life from an inward perspective, or you come to peace with it, that expansion can take place, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example on how this can play out is you might feel more comfortable showing how you feel without apology, or you may realize that emotions set the tone for how others treat you. Maybe you'll be more intentional with not letting things that don't belong out in the world you can keep those within. And the impact is that Jupiter in Cancer helps you see emotional transparency as part of your confidence. It's not a flaw. And a good tip for you this time is leading with feeling doesn't make you fragile. It makes you so much more relatable. And if you have your natal moon in your second house, you tie emotional safety to stability and what you can easily rely on. And Jupiter in Cancer emphasizes this growth through reassessing which parts of your comfort zone still feel worth holding on to. And so when observing your emotions at this time, pay attention to this area of life. See what triggers a surge for you, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of life or become aware of it or understand what triggers you, that you can understand yourself from an inward perspective, and then expansion can take place from an outward perspective, especially revolving around the life that Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example is that you might refresh old habits, you might invest in things that give you more emotional satisfaction, or you might let go of routines that feel empty. The impact of this transit may be that you realize that real comfort includes emotional fit, not just predictability. And a good tip for you this time is that if it doesn't feel good for you anymore, it's no longer worth calling safe, so it's time to throw old things in the trash. If your natal moon's in your third house, you process emotions by talking them through or mentally organizing them. Jupiter in Cancer grows you by encouraging conversations that get more personal and heartfelt, not just practical or to the point. And so when observing your emotions, pay attention to how you are saying your feelings. Are you just saying what you think is correct, or are you actually channeling it from within? Because it's when you emotionally understand this from an inward perspective that expansion can take place, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so an example is you may reconnect with a sibling or an old friend, or open up more emotionally in spaces that used to stay a little bit surface level, or you could be putting your voice out there a little bit more, but from more of an authentic angle. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer shows that talking about feelings is just as important as thinking through them. And a good tip for you this time is you don't always need the perfect words for it to be real. Just say what's on your mind, say what you feel, and you might find good results. If your natal moon's in your fourth house, then you're deeply tied to your roots or your home or your family or your private inner world. Jupiter in Cancer strengthens that pull, encouraging growth through making a home feel more emotionally aligned, not just physically functional. A good example is you might address old family dynamics, or maybe you'll improve your living arrangements or redefine what home looks like for you, whether internally or externally. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life. See what triggers an emotional surge from you, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of life from an inward perspective that expansion can take place, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your chart. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer reminds you that your roots can evolve as well. It's not just about where you come from, it's about what you create out of it. And a good tip at this time is that it's okay if home needs to be a little quieter or smaller or different than you imagine. It just has to feel like yours, and that's where the best results will come. And if your natal moon is in your fifth house, then you find comfort through creativity or joy or being expressive in some way. And Jupiter in Cancer grows that by encouraging sharing joy in ways that feel emotionally sincere from your heart and your soul, not just playful or very surface level. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life, how you're expressing yourself. See what triggers a negative surge for you, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of life from an inward perspective that expansion can take place, especially revolving the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so a good example on how this could play out is that you might pour more of your heart and soul into a creative project, or realize that you're happiest when your joy connects with others from a childlike wonder perspective. The impact of this transit may be that it teaches you that real fun comes from feeling safe enough to be your authentic self. And a good tip at this time is the most fulfilling fun isn't performed, it's shared. Trust me. If your natal moon's in your 6th house, you feel secure when your routines and responsibilities are handled and taken care of. Jupiter in Cancer encourages growth by highlighting emotional care as part of that daily upkeep, not just something that you squeeze in later as like a little optional thingy. So like when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life. Are you taking care of yourself? Or are you just trying to get stuff done? And see like what about taking care of yourself causes a surge for you, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this that you can expand inward, which will help with outward expansion, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your chart. And so an example is you might simplify your schedule to protect your peace or prioritize care work that feeds you emotionally. The impact of this transit may be that it shows you that being useful doesn't have to mean being drained. Being rested is the best way to be useful. And a good tip for you this time is that care counts, even if it's small and quiet. And if your natal moon is in your 7th house, you find emotional balance through close relationships or relating to others. Jupiter in Cancer grows you by emphasizing relationships where you're not just showing up, but actually feel safe to be seen from a deep emotional level. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to how you relate to others. See what like triggers like an insecurity for you. See where you don't feel safe, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of life from an inward perspective, that expansion can take place outwards, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your natal chart. And so a good example is you may deepen intimacy with a partner. You may deepen your idea of intimacy if you're single. You may shift dynamics in friendships towards more honesty, or let go of connections that feel a little bit surface level. The impact of this transit may be that it reminds you that emotional reciprocity, I think that's the right word, matters more than perfect balance. And a good tip for you this time is the right partnership won't ask you to shrink your feelings, they will celebrate them. If your natal moon is in your 8th house, you feel safest in deep and trusting connections, but you don't share your emotions lightly. They feel heavy and intense. And Jupiter in Cancer supports growth by encouraging trust to build at a slower, steadier pace. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life. See what like triggers fear for you, and really pay attention to make a note of it, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of your life from an inward perspective, or at least understand it, that expansion can take place from an outward perspective, especially revolving the area of life where Cancer falls in your chart. An example of how this can play out is you may find yourself opening up about things you've long kept private, or realizing that certain emotional walls can soften without collapsing. The impact of this transit may be that it shows you that closeness doesn't have to be high stakes to be real. It doesn't have to be intense. It just needs to be real and have emotional backbone. And a good tip for you this time is sharing doesn't have to be all or nothing, because small disclosures count too. If your moon is in your 9th house, you find emotional grounding in big ideas and or broad perspectives. Jupiter in Cancer grows you by encouraging emotional wisdom tied to either your roots or your innermost self or your beliefs. So when observing your emotional patterns, pay attention to the area of your like beliefs and your expansion, and see what triggers like sort of a fear or insecurity from you, because it's when you kind of fine-tune and become aware of this that you can expand inward, which will help you expand outward, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your chart at this time. And so a good example on how this can play out is you might explore your ancestry, or you might revisit cultural traditions, or you might tie your personal stories into your learning journey. Take what resonates. The impact is that this transit may show you that expanding your world includes knowing where you started. And a good tip at this time is you're allowed to question old stories while still respecting them. It's okay to change. If your natal moon's in your 10th house, you tie emotional security to being respected or achieving your visible goals. This transit shifts growth towards recognizing emotional needs as part of your success, not a distraction from it. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life. Pay attention to like what triggers a little bit of anxiety or insecurity when it comes to your achievements, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of life from an inward perspective and you come at peace with it, that expansion outwards can take place, especially revolving around the area of life that Cancer falls in your chart. A good example on how this can play out is you may seek work that feels more emotionally meaningful, or notice your reputation grows as you lead with more empathy or passion, not just like what you think you gotta do. The impact of this transit may be that it reminds you that respect deepens when people see your humanity. And a good tip for you this time is it's okay to let care show in your leadership. It won't make you less credible. If anything, it'll make you more credible because it'll come from deep within. If your moon's in your 11th house, you feel safe in friendships or group belonging, or with contributing to society, or feeling like you have a place in society. Jupiter in Cancer emphasizes growth through choosing community spaces that feel emotionally safe, not just intellectually aligned. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life. See what triggers a surge for you, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune this area of life or become aware of it and its triggers from an inward perspective, and then you work on it, that expansion can take place, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your chart. And so a good example is you might invest more in chosen family or friendships, or you may work on projects or towards causes that prioritize people and emotional connection over the outcomes. The impact of this transit may be that shared care keeps a dream alive longer than just shared ambition alone. And a good tip at this time is belonging feels better when it includes your full self, feelings and all. So remember that. And if your natal moon is in your 12th house, then you may be a little bit private with your emotions, or process them quietly or behind the scenes, or you filter your emotions through your subconscious mind in some way. Jupiter in Cancer supports growth by validating your need for rest, reflection, and distance from noise. So when observing your emotions, pay attention to this area of life. See what triggers a surge or feeling of guilt or anxiety for you, because it's when you emotionally fine-tune and become aware of your inward world and you give care to it, that expansion can take place outward, especially revolving around the area of life where Cancer falls in your chart. And so an example in how this can play out is you may lean into quiet healing work. You may spend more time in solitude, or you may release emotional weight in your own way. The impact of this transit may be that Jupiter in Cancer reminds you that quiet progress is still progress and it is still worth celebrating, and self-awareness is part of that. And a good tip is that you don't owe visibility to every part of your healing. It's about how you feel from within and seeing improvement within that you can grow so incredibly much. And I hope this video helped you so incredibly much. This format is so fun for me. If you've been enjoying this format where I kind of go into the relevant placements, please like this video. Please comment down below. I need to know if I'm doing something right or if I need to change it up, because my goal is to not just help you understand things from one angle. I want to help you see the big picture. And if you like this, then I'm hoping that you can tune in to the videos I have coming up this month. I have so many interesting topics I want to talk about that so excite me. And I'll dive into like a little more than just transits. There's more I want to touch on. There's so many things I want to do. I'm kind of scattered. So hopefully I can get it all done. I'll get it done eventually. And so until next time, I hope that you are able to grow and expand your outer world through how you grow and expand your inner world. And so I will see you next time.